across town, and then I was working here. And I said, "Wow, these guys here treat me better than the others." So, and my brother, my younger brother, he's 10 years younger. He joined the ladder company, so that's why I came here. But I've been in the fire department 57 years.
Now, were you a volunteer before you went career?
Yes.
You were.
Yeah.
Did they hire from within? So when this was a partially career department, it was always a combination. Right. So it was career staff, volunteer. Now it's 100% volunteer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They always kind of took from the ranks.
Yeah, they did. They tried to.
Yeah, as
there
best
was
they
a
could.
lot of guys that wanted the jobs.
Sure.
But historically, nobody wanted the job. So I said, no. I was working for IBM, just wasn't doing it. I was fixing first generation computers.
Yeah.
And I said, no, there's got to be more than this.
Where's that, up in Poughkeepsie? The IBM plant up there?
Out of White Plains.
White Plains, okay.
Out of White Plains.
Got
and then I'd go to Yorktown and all over. But no, I didn't enjoy that.
Yeah.
So the fire chief, he was Polish, and so he says to me, "Hey," he says, "I got a good job for you." That's what? He says, "Why don't you go to the fire department?" He says, "You're ready to volunteer?" I said, "Yeah, I never thought of that." I said, "Okay." So I did. I took the job provisional.
Right.
Just pending the outcome of the exam. He says, "All you got to do is pass the exam and you got to stay." I said, "Okay." So I did that. I did that. Stayed. That was 1968.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was here.
So how many years did you do? So you said 57 overall.
39.
39 years as a career firefighter.
39 here. I got caught in a collapse. Matter of fact, Angelo was...
I was with you.
He was with me. He dragged my skinny ass out.
Really?
Yeah. And that was it.
So let's talk about that. This young kid drags your ass out, huh? After all those years of experience.
Well, like I said, my philosophy always has been, pass the torch.
Sure.
You can't hang on to it forever. So every time, I worked and, these guys wanted to ride out with us, I'd try to teach them something, show them something. Let them take the knob and do their thing. I got accused of being lazy. I said, "Not lazy. I'm teaching these guys."
That's right.
You never know when they're gonna be it's gonna be to your benefit. And that night it was a pizza shop, and the air conditioner came down, roof came down, everything, and we were inside and got buried. And that screwed up my knee really good.
Yeah.
And had a knee replacement. The lawyer says to me, "Hit the golden sombrero, get the hell out." I'm not ready to go. He says, "What
You
else?"
enjoyed it too much.
He says, "What are you going to accomplish?" Nothing to accomplish. So it's okay. So it took maybe all of 2 weeks to adjust.
Yeah.
But
but you're still here, and you're the historian, right? You're keeping the history and the culture and the traditions of these.
I'm fighting with these guys, trying to get somebody else to, learn all this and take all this. I said, because I'm not going to be around forever, and you're worried about history being lost and gone. It's going to be lost and gone if somebody else doesn't pick up and where I left off.
Yeah. Chief, let me ask you, right? I'd love for you to jump in here.
Yep.
The fire department is going to be 200 years old this year, or it is 200 years old
200
this
years
year.
old this yep.
An amazing feat, right? Because most fire companies are, not that old. I mean, you guys have really been an institution here in Port Chester, New York for quite a long time. Yourself, you're second generation?
Third generation.
Third generation.
Yep.
You're now the chief of department.
Yep.
Talk to me a little bit about your upbringing here and what that all looked like.
So I grew up in this house.
Yeah.
My father just turned 50 years. We just had a party for him this past year. He was also on the career side with Tommy. He was Tommy's partner.
Got it.
He got hired in 1990. So my whole childhood, my father was a volunteer as a young kid. I grew up in the rescue company. I grew up in this whole house. I mean, everyone was like uncle, like Tommy. I look at him as an uncle.
Sure.
Then my father got hired and came over to the other side of the floor. And he was there for most of the time. I was captain in the company for many years already, and he was still on the job.
You spent a lot of early days hanging out here as a kid?
Yep, I have pictures of me as a baby in the rescue.
Yeah.
And I've done those same pictures with my kids.
Yeah,
So it's nice to pass it along. And
yeah.
My younger brother is the captain of the rescue right now. So my family has 3 past captains of the rescue company.
Wow,
My
very
father,
cool.
me, and now my brother.
Yeah.
So it's not only a firehouse, it's family.
Well, I'll tell you this, right? So walking around this morning with you guys and really getting the lay of the land, right? We come to a lot of different firehouses and we get to see what and how it's done all over the place. Here is truly a standout. 200 years as a fire department, the amount of history here. So let's talk about this. The building we're in has 3 separate fire companies, right?
Yep.
So the city of Portchester has many different fire companies spread out across the village, right? But here we have Reliance Engine and Hose Company number 1. We have Harry Howard Hook and Ladder Company number 1. That has a very impressive name behind the company, and we're going to get into Harry Howard and the relationship there. And then Fire Patrol and Rescue Company number 1. So this is one building, 3 separate companies, yet you still operate as a department together, right?
Yep.
The foundation of all these companies, and then the importance of when you walk around here, there is history being thrown at you at every corner of this building, right? Over 200 years of history throughout the halls of this building. Tommy, being a historian, 57 years here in the walls of this firehouse and serving the citizens of Portchester, when you look back on those years, how much of that foundation from which they came from is important to you, and why is it so important to you?
Well, all of it is really because I always consider and look at the guys that went before me.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, especially the position that I'm in, looking at the things that you do and the new innovations
Sure.
and the new apparatus and everything else. The rigs that I use were antiques compared to
Sure.
that. But then when you look back at the hand-drawn ladders that, you know, we bought from Harry Howard, you say, wow, you know, like how did these guys do it? Bucket brigades and things like this.
Right.
So the evolution is amazing. I mean, and it's just that when they say the romance of firefighting, that's the romance right there. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. So, you know, I kind of, you know, I love history. I love the evolution of the fire service.
Sure.
Yeah, but then you get a lot of guys today that just want to come and play. You know, they think that it's all fun and games.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not a hobby. It's a profession.
Well, we were talking about that, right, Chief? So let's go down that road a little bit. You know, with the amount of how protective you both are of the history here, because you're both a product of the environment here, right? Growing up here, being entrenched into the fabric of the fire companies here in Portchester. You have a lot of members now that come in for open membership because you're a busy volunteer department. You guys are running, you know, 1,500, 1,700 calls a year. It's a busier place. You're now allowing guys to come in from outside. You're allowing membership to fill the roles for the response side. But how important is it, Chief, to protect the integrity of these fire companies to those newer members, to really teach them about the foundation from which you were built?
So we're a very unique department the way we're laid out, being 7 individual companies. Each company has their membership roles, and each company is doing fairly well with membership coming in. But all the new members that come in, my biggest thing is to show them the way, teach them where they come from, and to be part of it. I want them to be part of it, whether they grew up in this village or not. They're serving this village, they're serving our department, and I want them to be part of it all.
Yeah.
And for the most part, they are.
Yeah.
Like you said, the walls are filled with stuff here.
It's incredible.
I mean, the history is unbelievable in this department and in this village, on many different aspects. I mean, we have the Capitol Theater right down the street. That's a Capitol Theater is known across the country as a history. So
Right.
for them to be part of all of that, I want that. And relatively they are. I mean, we have a couple of people, you know, they're just here to go to calls. But for the majority of it, we do a lot of other stuff besides calls. And they're here for it. So
Yeah, I think a big part of it too, right, is really getting that buy-in.
Yep.
Right? So as those members come through and you're gaining new people, it's not just riding out on the apparatus, but it's really understanding the foundation from which they're allowed to be here today. And that falls solely on the blood, sweat, and tears of guys like yourselves and your family members, obviously, and Tommy yourself,
came
right?
before us.
That's right.
Yeah.
we're
That's right.
investing in them to be members, and I want them to invest back into us.
Yeah.
So as long as we have that common ground, it's working right now.
Well, and it should be said too. I mean, you guys are on a very big upward swing on membership.
Yep.
For a 100% volunteer department that it is today, you guys are. We pulled up this morning. It's a Monday morning. We pull up at 10 o'clock in the morning, and there were 15 guys standing on the apron. And I said, are you guys here for us? No, this is every day.
Yep.
And I said, that's incredible.
Yeah,
right?
if you go lunchtime, you want to go sit at the table, and you got to look for a seat.
Yeah.
And that's every day of the week.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
It is.
For sure.
It is.
What do you contribute that to? Like, why? Why are you having such a successful recruitment and retention of within your department?
So we're a very busy department. We always have been. Back to our inception, we've been because of the layout of the village.
Yeah.
We're large commercial. We were very big industrial, and because of the industrial fallout in the '60s and '70s and '80s, it's left us with a lot of old housing stock, a lot of old buildings. So we catch a lot of fire.
Yeah.
I got some guys that are on the truck for a year, and they have fought a lot of fire.
That's
And
great.
when you go to some other communities and you have members that have been in for 5, 6, 7 years and haven't caught a job yet.
Sure.
I have probies that are catching jobs.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Because we are very big into the history, we're a Leatherhead house.
Mm-hmm.
We're all of that,
Yeah.
and these kids want to be part of that. So our call volume is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
But
But I
we-
think but Chief, correct me if I'm wrong though. I think it has a lot to do. I mean, the call volume is there. That's the enticement to get people in. But you can get people in anywhere. It's how do you keep them?
Well, we've created a culture around this place
That's it.
Yeah.
that they want to be part of.
Yeah.
And that they're needed, that they're wanted.
Yep.
And that they're somebody. You
Yep.
know, they're just not a pot rustler after a meeting or
That's
something
right.
like that.
There's a job for everyone in this firehouse.
Yeah.
Since I've been chief, I'm going into my 5th year as chief. I'm currently the chief engineer now. But I've pushed them to be that. I want them to do every job on the fire ground. I don't keep companies separated. We try to do as much as a group, as a whole. These kids, I tell them when they walk in the firehouse, which is what I was told when I walked in the firehouse, keep your mouth shut, keep your ears open. I have them being taught by guys that already know the way, and they're learning that, and they're learning that culture in the house, and it's showing on the fire ground too.
Yeah.
It's really been a great time as chief right now.
Yeah. Tommy, talk to me about when you come in to the firehouse, have a cup of coffee, or just to chat with the guys after a round of golf or something. You wanna get away from home for a few hours. You come down here, right? Like,
It does me good to see that that they want to carry on tradition. My son just he retired as a deputy chief in Greenwich.
oh, okay.
And he said to me, the one thing that's lacking, I mean, he grew up here like
Sure.
Angelo did.
Sure.
You know, and he says the thing that's lacking, he says, my department is tradition. He said the guy, there's nothing instilled in them other than this is a job. You know,
Yeah.
how many days off am I going to get? When's payday, and
Sure.
so on and so forth. So, you know, it does me good to see that guys are interested above and beyond
Sure.
going out to fight a fire.
Yeah.
You know, to keep this tradition going. I mean, you know,
Takes
200
work.
years is a long time.
But it takes work.
Oh, yeah,
And,
totally.
And that's what I
It
find
takes
is
the right people also.
it does, right?
Yeah.
The
It
right
takes
people
the
with the
right
right
attitude.
passion, the right attitude, but it takes work to consistently talk about the past
Mm-hmm.
and to educate. And when guys, you know, we were saying the halls are filled here with memorabilia. You guys are talking about, I mean, you sit here and you tell me we were just able to get a gold badge back. We just got the lantern. We got a painting. We got this book. We saw this online. We wanted this back. Like, you guys are actively pursuing every possibility of keeping tradition alive here. And when a new kid or even a member that's been here for a long time walks down any hallway or runs down the stairs to get on the rig to go out for a run, the past is watching them, and they're watching that.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That's
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
That's very
I
cool.
mean, you know, people paid their dues. They really paid their dues. I mean, you know, I've read in our minutes where we had a church fire.
yeah.
And the church was alongside the railroad. Cinders from the railroad started the church on fire, and so on and so forth. It was December, and it was so cold that they had the manual tub pumps in.
Yeah.
They had laddered the building and whatnot. They said, no, this is a loss. We're just going to wet it down. And the water was freezing in those buckets that we had returned to us. It was so cold that they would take the water out of the river and it would freeze by the time
No
they
kidding.
got to throw it on the fire. And you have to, I remember winter fires that I
Sure.
worked, frozen as could be.
Sure.
And thinking, well, what did these poor guys go
right.
through? And so you try to instill in the next generation, what it's all about, and of course, you've got it easy. You got an air conditioned cab,
Right.
You got plenty of heat, and you have relief coming and all these sort of things. So everybody pays their dues. Everybody, because even this generation's paying his dues. I don't know what's going to happen, in the next 100 years. What apparatus is going to look like,
Sure.
what fires are going to look like,
Sure.
how to put them out. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
I mean, you think about the change you've seen, right?
Exactly, totally.
From your early days
Yep.
to where you are today, and just the difference that firefighting has. It's like technology, right? Technology advances so fast, so everything else does along with it, and firefighting's no exception to that.
Exactly. I mean, I remember the guys in the ladder company in the 60s teaching me how to adjust and tighten a truss ladder.
Yeah.
They had the special tool to, and I'm going, today I'm thinking about, I'm going, my God, that was dangerous. Like the ladder was rotten and
Right.
old. It's going to snap, somebody's going to
Sure,
get killed
sure.
on it. What the hell
Sure.
do I know about tightening a ladder?
Yeah.
But yeah, so now today it's like, they get stress tests, and if it's a tiny scratch or
Yeah,
worn,
take it out of service,
take
right?
it out of service. It's gone. It's done. So it's the evolution is amazing.
Yeah.
It truly is. I mean, I just love the fire service. If I didn't, I wouldn't be here this long.
Sure.
Like I said, I have twin boys. One, they both have degrees in fire science. One just retired as chief of the Greenwich Fire Department, a deputy chief. He went to work for OSHA as a compliance officer, loves it. And his brother was a firefighter in Norwalk, Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
And he
Sure.
met a gal out in California and decided to go to California. He said, I'll be a firefighter out here. And he said, nah, it's all brush fires. And I'm used to South Norwalk. So
Yeah.
now he's a cop.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah. He's a cop in Escondido. Murder and and I don't know, whatever else it is, detective.
Okay.
So that's what he's doing
Wow.
out there.
So you got to be a proud father.
Oh yeah, but it's in the blood. My brother was a firefighter. It's just that's actually because my brother, we had a fire in the apartment house that we lived in, and I don't know. I just always had a sense of safety and whatnot. And I went down the fire escape, and my mother, father, and brother went out into the halls and got lost and confused with everybody else. And so I got down to street level. I'm looking like, where's the family? I thought they were following me. They
Sure.
weren't. So I went back in through the front doors looking for him, found him in the hallway, and got him out. My brother, who's 10 years younger than I was, he was petrified. He wouldn't sleep at night or so on and so forth. So I would bring him to the firehouse. We only lived up the street. It's maybe 4 blocks up. So he'd come to the firehouse and whatnot, and that's how I met a lot of the guys who got
Sure.
interested in the fire department. And then he subsequently became a firefighter.
Yeah.
So it's in the blood.
Sure.
You have to enjoy it. You have to love it. And,
Yeah.
it's like I said. I'm grateful and thankful for those that went before me,
Yeah.
and I'm just trying to make the next generation grateful for what they have.
Well, I love that because it's a great segue. Because I was going to ask the chief, right, Angelo, like having Tommy here, what does that mean? How important is it to have guys like this that are still wanting to be here?
So that it's huge for us.
Yeah.
It's personal for me.
Yeah.
Because I love the department. I love the history so much. I grew up in the firehouse with Tommy always being there, learning the stories, learning the rig. I mean, I was one of those guys as a young kid that would jump on the rig with him, and he'd hand me the line, and I'd go to work. So
Right.
that built me to where I am today, and I'm trying to do that with the generation that I have behind me now. So it's all in series. I learned it from him. He passed it down. Now I'm trying to do the same for the next generation.
Yeah.
I try to tell these guys the history in this house, and 90 years ago there was horses here.
In this building.
In this building, they can't even, in their world, they can't fathom that.
Yeah, it doesn't make
I
sense.
mean, when
Yeah.
I joined in the end of the 90s, we still had open cab engines and an open seat tiller.
Right.
And we had that open seat tiller till 2007. When I joined the rescue, I was given 2 long boots, a long coat, and a helmet.
Yep.
That wasn't that long ago.
Right.
Some of these kids were babies at that time.
Mm-hmm.
How it's progressed to where we are now is a big difference. So I mean, 100 years ago, horses and hand-drawn ladders. Now
Yeah.
we have some of the best equipment that's been made
Yeah.
downstairs. You know.
You know, it was cool. I was in Hartford, Connecticut not too long ago. I was in one of their firehouses talking with a bunch of guys that I know. And they're like, oh, show you this. We go to the back of the bays, and they still have the horse stalls. Mm-hmm. And they still have the horses' names, like etched into above in the beautiful woodwork there, and the bars. And I'm like, you know, now, guys that work in firehouses like that hate them, right? Because the place falling apart, it's old, it's this and that. You know, but from an outsider's point of view, like when I walk into this place, like a firehouse like yours, or like that place in Hartford, right, that fire station in Hartford, there's this overwhelming feeling of like nostalgia comes over you.
Oh yeah.
About what went on in these halls before, we were long before we were here.
Totally.
You know.
So we're in a little bit of a transition with that right now. We have some members. They're like, "Oh, we want a new firehouse," and I'm like, "You don't understand what you have."
Yeah.
And they're like, "No, we want a new plate." You don't understand. This is your history. This is where you come from. People drive by and they see our firehouse and they're firefighters in other areas, and they pull up and they go, and that's a firehouse.
Yep.
Wow, this place is beautiful. We know it's old.
It
but
can be redone.
It can be redone, but you can't replace this. The feel of this house, it can't be replaced. No new building will do that for us.
Yeah, but you look at next door, the Harry Howard room, right? So we're in the Reliance engine room right now, right? So this is like their meeting room. Their all their history is in these walls for the most part. Next door is the Harry Howard room, right? Which Tommy, that's your company, and then Chief, your company's on the other side with the rescue, fire patrol and rescue. But like you guys just redid the room in there, the one room. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah.
High ceilings, right? Vaulted ceilings.
We did it ourselves.
Right.
You know, the village owns all the apparatus and the buildings and stuff, but they never stopped us from redoing everything. I mean, in our minutes of our meetings and things we have where the other firehouse that we left before we came here, we bought all the furniture for.
Sure.
And there was some spirited discussions over buying a player piano, and I mean, you have that. You could grasp all that. You can feel all that.
But to pay respect, so Harry Howard just redid their room. We just did my room in the rescue.
Nice.
But we showed the respect to where we come from too.
100%.
So it's done. It's done clean. It's done respectful.
Yep.
And it's keeping the feel of the firehouse, and that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and I think that's overwhelmingly important.
Yeah.
Across the board. So tell me what the future looks like for the Port Chester Fire Department in the different companies. I mean, Tommy, you got another 50 years in you to be here to educate and promote. Come on, we need you.
I got to get him back on the driver's list. That's what I'm working on.
Here's the thing, right, Chief? It's like for you that firmly believes in knowing the foundation. And it was funny, we were talking before, and you were telling me, hey, I was reading this, I read this. Like you're still actively diving in and learning as much as you can. And you said your father and Tommy were partners, right? And so on. So, I mean, you obviously are invested, right? But moving forward, it's like, who's the next guy? Obviously, you're one of them, but there's got to be other guys, too, that need to really buy into what Tommy brings to the table, the excitement and the passion for the foundation.
So I think we're laying the groundwork for that as much as we can.
Awesome.
We're having those talks downstairs while we're sitting on the apparatus floor. We're passing those stories on, and they're interested. The younger generation is interested, and as long as they show an interest to it, we got them. We can pull them in. But like I went and bought an antique fire truck. So my father's always collected antique fire trucks. We have many of them. I ended up getting an old City of Bridgeport engine.
Yeah.
I brought it down here, and these kids went crazy. I said, all right, I got them. They're hooked. Now I've been going to shows. They're all jumping on the rig. They want to learn how to pump it. They want to do things with it. So as long as they show the interest, there's enough of us here to give them the foundation to be that next group of people.
Yeah.
But the interest, the willingness from us to pass it down has to be there, and the interest from the kids have to be there to want to learn it.
Yeah.
And I think we're okay right now.
It's finding that balance, right?
Yeah, it's a balance of it.
And I think that's always been the conversation, even from your younger years. It's finding that balance between that old and that new, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think the next generation grows. They just don't happen to fall in the door. They're here and they grow and they do it because they want to do it. So it's
it's the culture of our society that's part of the problem in the first place. So when Tommy, my father, all these guys joined the fire department, they were in their early 20s. They owned homes. They had kids.
Sure.
Our generation and the generation behind me, most of us can't afford to do that.
Well,
And
that's
that's
it.
a whole nother separate issue, but it does affect the fire service.
100%.
It affects the fire service a lot. So like our neighboring department, Rye, they were a bedroom community, but they were a mixture of blue collar and white collar. Now that community went more white collar. You don't have the lower income, mechanics and
Yeah.
HVAC guys.
Yeah,
and
the blue
welders.
collar guys that are the ones
They're
that
gone.
are, civically giving back to their communities.
And the fire department has
Yeah.
seen a direct result
Oh,
of that.
for sure.
We still have that. We still have that community here. We still have that base here, and we have the legacies. I mean, there are a lot of members that are multi-generational into this fire department, and that's where it's at. That's what's keeping
It was
us
cool.
going.
We were walking around this morning before we sat down to do this, and just getting to meet a bunch of guys. And we're walking around the different rooms, and you guys are giving us a little bit of the history and the tour and everything. And as you talk to different guys along the way, shake a hand, introduce yourself. They're just as dialed in.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's so cool to see that. And
Yes.
it's like, hey, this lithograph here we had restored. We did this, we did that. Oh, I'm second generation. Oh, I'm third generation. Like, that to me speaks very highly of the culture that's here. And that the next generations are just as protective, if not more so, than their ancestors were.
So the legacy members have something to hold because they don't want to embarrass their family name.
It's huge.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And when the members get that feeling in them that they don't want to embarrass or disrespect the history that's ahead of
Yeah.
before them,
Yeah.
that makes a better member for us.
Yeah, I'm sure it does, and I'm sure this community has changed. I'm sure over your years, Chief, your years. I mean, you grew up here. I mean,
Yep.
and so on. But the community's changed. The requirement for your services has dramatically increased, and so on. So, and the makeup of the community, you're not getting as many people from the community joining anymore, and that's
No.
why you had
Well,
to
the
look.
community's changed.
Yeah.
There was a lot of industry here in Port Chester at one time. We had the brush company, the nut and bolt company, Home Light. They're still around, chainsaws and generators and things. And when I worked for IBM, I would, they had their computers and stuff. I'd go fix their computers, and over the PA system, they would announce the fire calls in
Oh,
town.
no kidding.
Yeah, and all the guys
The
would take
factories
off
would
and
empty
go.
out and
and
they
the
would all come.
factories let their volunteer firemen go to calls.
No kidding.
And they would announce on the PA system where the calls were, what was going on. And the roles, each company's roles were a maximum of 60 people, but they would have 10 and 15 and 20 on the waiting list to join. But we don't have that anymore today. Those industries are gone. The type of, people aren't there. You hear these guys volunteer. How much am I going to get paid?
Yeah, right.
You're doing this for nothing?
Yep.
Yeah, because, it's got to be in here. You have to want to do it. And it's a whole different ballgame today.
Yeah,
But,
it is.
Yeah, you don't have the manpower that you had before.
Yeah, and I think though, the ones that are here, the people that are here, they want to be here.
Yeah.
They do.
And I think what's really interesting about that is that as here, not so much. You guys have membership, you have strong numbers, you're putting guys in the seats, and so on. But overall, now more than ever, we need more buy-in from our people because a lot of places are doing more with less, right? We require more services out of the people that are there, but we have less guys filling the seats, right? And so, that's where you have to give them every tool and every ability to really learn and stay in love with it, right? We need to retain our people,
Yep.
and retaining our people is probably more important than recruiting them. Because if
It
we
is.
have them, we need to keep them.
You're exactly right.
And you
Yeah.
get we go through phases where we get burnout from guys.
Sure.
They get burned out. They're home. They're trying to raise their families, work, and be here. And this department requires a lot of time. I mean, with the call volume that we're running right now, the downtown is in a redevelopment stage right now. They're talking about, there's like 10 to 15 projects that are all high-rise now. That's something that we haven't had to deal with in the past. So it's going to bring new challenges to the department. And so when I became chief, I created a training officer that we hadn't had filled for several years. And they've been getting at it. They've been going. We had Ida, Tropical Storm Ida was a big hit to us. I got members going to Oriskany, New York, taking the water training left and right.
Right.
They're in Valhalla at our training center. There's a guy there every day of the week.
Really?
They're pushing hard. They're going through their training. We're trying to create a culture of wanting to be officers, wanting to be chiefs, wanting to better themselves, take as much as they can, and they're doing it. So.
And you're letting them do it.
I'm letting them, absolutely.
Like that's the most important thing.
I don't want to
like,
be the hurdle to them.
Dude,
I want them to go.
That right there.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you have more people that aren't afraid of, years ago everybody was afraid of being shown up.
Yeah.
But now it's not like that. Everybody wants to share because they understand that to survive, you're going to have to share.
Yeah.
You're going to have to nurture new people and new growth and support. Support's the big thing. Support these guys.
My biggest challenge is getting the village to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
They have to
Money.
they have to give the money to allow me to let these guys grow themselves.
Sure.
So like I have a guy that's taking a class in West Point this week. It's an hour drive each way. And he's like, I don't know if my car can make it. Okay, well I have a spare Chiefs car.
Right.
We've kept it for
Right.
that reason. Take the spare Chiefs car.
Right.
Well, what do you take the spare Chiefs car and go to training? You're making me a better chief, and you're making the department a better department by getting this training. So I don't hold them back when they want to do that stuff. They wanted to go to Oriskany, go ahead. That's a halfway across the state.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourself. They went, they loved it. They did dorm room style. Now everyone else wants to do it. I'm not going to hold them back. I want them to do it. And I want to build officers, and I want to build chief officers. So.
Well, Angelo, you certainly have the right mentality because now more than ever we need to be saying yes to our people.
Yep.
Give them opportunity. Let them go find their way. When we hold people back, weak management holds their people back. Mm-hmm. They're protective of their position because they don't want to endorse anyone below them to potentially be bigger and better than they are. But when you embrace, what you have here and what you've been taught and how you've grown up here, and it's all about the company and mission first, that's when you put your people first and you give them every tool to succeed. Mm-hmm. That's why you have the culture you have today.
Yep. So we've had many chiefs, and obviously I've worked through many chiefs over
Sure.
the years. And we had some guys that were unbelievable, best of the best, and then we've had some that weren't.
Sure.
And I have tried to learn from when I was a company officer, because I was a company officer for a very long time, what it felt like when I would go to them and say, hey, there's a heavy rescue training, we want to go take it. No, we don't have money for that. Hey, can we take the truck up to an hour away because there's a big, there was a lot of Hurstville stuff back in the early 2000s
Right.
we wanted to be part of when that whole new generation of heavy machinery stuff
Sure.
came out. No, you guys can't go. And it used to hurt me. I used
Yeah.
to say, I want to go. Why
Right.
can't I go? So everything that bothered me as a regular member, I'm trying to not pass that along. I'm trying
Love
to,
it.
I want to push them. I want them to do more. And because I'm letting them, they're doing it. They want to do it. So,
Oh, and that's it.
and it's easy to be chief when you have membership that wants to better themselves.
100%.
You almost learn from being abused.
Yes.
Really.
I agree.
What you
It's
like and what you don't
I
like.
always talked about the secret six. As young people next door, we were, they kept our thumb on us. You can't do this, can't do that, like Angelo said. And I said, I don't want to be like that. When time comes, I want to pass the torch and welcome new blood and big. It's like my boys when they went to the fire service, and they went in as professionals. I said to remember one thing. Number one, remember where you came from. I said, and remember the first time that you got on a fire truck and went for a ride, or went to a fire. You know how that feeling is. You remember this? Oh yeah. I said, well, don't take that away from anybody else.
Yep.
I said, it's not yours to take away. It's yours to give, but don't do that. So, Greenwich was a combination, department, or still is, and my son got along great with
Yeah.
the volunteers and whatnot. I mean, it's just, but you have to do that. You have to share. It's not yours. It's not yours to take. You're just a visitor here. And it's something that you can do, but it's not yours. You can't
I
take
love
it.
that.
We're the
It's-
curators
and don't
of
take
this
it away
time.
from anybody else.
And we got to make sure that we pass it along.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like all the history sitting here. We're the curators of it. We're the babysitters of it, and we're going to take care of it. And hopefully, the next generation has the love for it that we do.
Yep.
And that's how we got to 200 years, and hopefully a lot longer.
Well, with that, fellas, thank you. Thank you for a little
Welcome.
glimpse
Thank you.
into what's
Thank you.
happening here in Port Chester and so on. But we're going to do some other stuff with you guys as well.
Absolutely.
Certainly want to get some backstories on some of the other things here. But just to sit down with you both, really incredible.
Yep.
And thank you. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
your time.
Thank you.
We appreciate
Thank you
it.
for coming.
Thank you.
All right.